Welcome to Therapy Inspired. As therapists, we have a unique view of the world. We hold space for grief and trauma, yet we also witness resilience and healing, all while being humans ourselves. We hope to share helpful psychoeducational insights from our world as psychotherapists in and out of the therapy room. And while we'll be talking about things therapy related, listening and engaging in this podcast doesn't equate a client-therapist relationship. And though we might be using insights from our work with various clinical issues, we don't reference specific cases.
I am Kameela Osman. I'm a registered social worker and a psychotherapist. I have a practice in Bowmanville, Ontario, and I practice throughout Ontario virtually.
My name is Darby Crosby, and I'm a registered psychotherapist and also on the registry for marriage and family therapy. And I have a virtual clinic in Ontario and offer supervision to clinicians as well. So welcome to Therapy Inspired. Today, we're going to be talking about functioning versus flourishing, right? And we have a lot of conversations around mental health and, focusing on sort of illness, disease, and crisis points. But today we wanted to sort of look and explore the difference between what it means to flourish mentally and not just function, right? So some people, are technically fine. They're working, they're parenting, they're socializing, everything is well, but they're not necessarily flourishing. So can you explain to us what flourishing is?
Yes. And so diving into this in regards to Mental Health Awareness Month this May, to highlight that beyond just getting through our day to day, which is functioning, our functioning may be, we're going to work, we're paying our bills, we're surviving day to day. Flourishing, on the other hand, looks like we're aligned, we're living a purpose, we're feeling, a sense of fulfillment and connectedness with our life. It's often a sense of our values are connected with our actions when we're flourishing, and we're going to feel that sense of alignment and balance when we're in that space. And so why this connects to mental health, because it's not just about when we're in crisis or breakdown, do we need to remember our mental health, but to consider living in a way that feels good or whole beyond just getting through the day to day and actually thriving, flourishing in our life.
Yeah, like many clients sometimes come to therapy and say, I'm not really sure why I'm here. Like, there's some things that are bothering me, but there's nothing really wrong. Like I'm not sick. And coming to a therapist is not about being sick or mentally ill or anything. It's about being able to sort of talk about and expand some things that you're struggling with. So you don't need to come if you're in crisis. Sometimes it's just about tuning in, figuring out where the conflict is and, getting somebody to help us weigh the pros and the cons. And it's just about allowing us to sort of have a little bit better quality of life, right? So if you're flourishing, if you're really sort of in tune with yourself, like Kameela had mentioned earlier, you really feel like you're living your life, not just going through the motions. You feel emotionally connected to others and to yourself. You feel like you can experience joy and prosperity and everything without guilt. You're setting boundaries for yourself and for others. And you have the energy to explore new things, to dream, to rest. Like a lot of us aren't even taking time to rest and recover, right? So we need to respond to the stressors in our life because there are lots of those and have a sense of groundedness, right? And being able to sort of deal with things that come our way and not necessarily have it zap our energy out. And having the sense that we're belonging, that we're contributing, that our life has meaning and value is really crucial to feeling like I'm flourishing.
Some common signs to watch for if you might be functioning but not flourishing is if you keep busy to avoid stillness, you struggle with just being, and you feel like you need to continue to do. You feel at ease. You feel at ease in the doing, and you feel at unease in times of stillness. You may crash after being on all day. So it's kind of all or nothing is happening in your world. You're either on and going, and when you stop that going, you're crashing. And it's not rest, it's that crash. You may struggle to name things that generally bring you joy. So if you were to think about, like, what do I enjoy about my day? What do I enjoy about my life? You may think, you know what, I'm actually just doing my life, I'm sustaining it and not actually enjoying it. Life might be full, but you may feel like you're on autopilot, and that's what I'm describing there. And there might be an ongoing sense of numbness or even disconnect from your life, a flatness that you brush off. And that's where, as you were mentioning, Darby, people may come into therapy. And it's not that they're coming in because, just because they're coming in and they're saying, I feel something is off, but they don't have something in particular that's causing them crisis. And that can be really disconcerting. I don't know why I feel this way. It might be this difference between I'm functioning in my life, but I'm not actually connected to it. It's not aligned with my goals.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes people think about mental health as, sort of a crisis or an illness. And if I am not in crisis, I'm not having an issue, then I'm fine. I don't have mental health issues. And yet, if we do that, we're sort of not being fair to ourselves. We're missing an opportunity to live more fully or to let go of the things that we need to, that it's difficult. And, I think in this day and age, sometimes people think if I'm not in pain, if I'm not, having a serious problem, I don't deserve care. But quite the opposite is true. Like, we all deserve care, because if we're really having a hard time with managing all the things that we're doing, we need somebody to be there to say, no, you're doing it right. Let's figure out how we can make it easier for you or different for you. Flourishing is not about being happy all the time, because that's not a real expectation, but it's about feeling whole and content and complete. It includes, feeling like you can be happy and sad, and everything is still okay. Like, you're not judging yourself in terms of how you're feeling or responding to things.
And so some barriers to flourishing may include cultural expectations that reward over functioning. So if there are narratives that you've had handed down or around you in society that says, you need to put your head down and push forward, it may be hard to step back and, try to value what are your personal values, try to align with those values, because the narrative may be, I need to keep doing. Rest is for, culturally, I grew up with the saying, rest is for when you're dead. And I believe that for a long time, that we have to keep doing, otherwise we're wasting time. And so that narrative can be really deep and powerful in guiding us to feel like we can't slow down. We may feel shame or guilt, and maybe because of those narratives around rest, play, and slowness, we may fear confronting parts of ourselves that feel unresolved. And so a uncomfortableness around slowing down and looking at ourselves, around challenging, whether it's narratives or parts of ourselves that are tied to that get value or a sense of thriving from that over functioning. And we may have a lack of community or safe spaces to explore this, especially if some of those narratives are societal based or family induced. We may have people who don't want us to leave a job that isn't well or helping our mental health. It may not want us to slow down and take some time for ourselves, or engage in hobbies and activities that are a bit more fulfilling for us, because maybe they never had that for themselves, or maybe they've been fed alternate narratives about what that would mean. That play is wasteful time, or that play didn't serve you. And I mean, those narratives, like we've talked about in other episodes, sometimes those narratives are built from a need that served them in that time, but is no longer applicable for your life. So we do want to look at, are those narratives still accurate for you? Does it still fit? And is this blocking you from flourishing in your life now where you could be?
Yeah, so our role in therapy when we're trying to help somebody flourish, for example, is to help people sort of name what's going on, whether it's their emotional needs or if they've been ignoring something for years and years. Being able to sort of unpack patterns that keep people stuck in that sort of functioning mode, right? So sometimes with couples, they have gotten used to talking to each other in a certain way. And so sometimes it's helpful to break that down, slow it down, so that they each can be heard and, communicate better. We also want to encourage people in therapy to develop a sense of self-compassion and sort of creativity and playfulness and being authentic in their expressions. Like lots of times you'll say, "So how are you?" and somebody will automatically say, "Fine, good," because that's what we've been trained to sort of say, instead of really attuning ourselves to our feelings and then being able to express them. So sometimes when we do therapy in terms of helping people flourish, it's more often sort of more preventative care, not just sort of helping people to get unstuck.
Some practical reflections for anyone listening is to ask yourself, am I functioning or am I flourishing? And what would flourishing, what does it look like for me? What's your sense of that? There's a whole modality of therapy called acceptance commitment therapy that looks at how do we align our values with our lived actions and how, when that's not in alignment, it can create emotional and mental distress. And so that may be a starting point to explore what are our values. And then it may give you a sense of, okay, how do I shift actions to align with that a little bit more? What are some small signs in your body or your mind that gives you an indication that you're over functioning? When do you know that you might be over functioning and not living your life, not feeling more aligned with it? You're just walking through the to-dos. What are some signs that you used to love things and you're just, or that you're not doing the things that you love and you're just getting things done? Who in your life helps you feel more like yourself and not just productive? So, who can you actually be with and enjoy their company and embrace some of that mindfulness with? Some small intentional shifts that can support flourishing include protecting time for rest that's actually nourishing and not just numbing. So I often will say this difference between, sort of coasting or actually resting. So are we just, zoning out and we're binge watching something or doing the mindless scroll, which has its place. Sometimes we need that as a mental distraction, but if we're using it intentionally, it can be helpful for us. If we're just falling into that from that go, go, go all day and we're crashing, then what we may find is that when we're done that, we feel more tired, we feel more exhausted, and it's not actually rest. It's not nourishing us in any way. Real rest will kind of dissipate some of that stress. And so after the moment has passed and we've done that restful activity, we'll feel lighter versus more tired and more numb. And so that's kind of a cue for, are we actually engaging in activities that's replenishing us, that's making us feel rested? And it's not just we're taking a break from whatever the stressful activity may be. Can we reconnect with creative outlets or hobbies without needing to be good at them? I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not monetizing my hobby. I'm just enjoying that hobby. And so truly just connecting with that creativity. Can we reevaluate definitions for success and productivity and worth? And so sometimes if we tie that worth to productivity, it can be hard to value rest or enjoying life. A moment of silence or a moment of mindfulness may feel like a waste of time if we feel like that isn't aligned in our understanding that that in itself can be productive and valuable. Practice boundaries with our own inner critic. So as I mentioned, those narratives, sometimes those narratives given to us or that we inherit become our own narratives. And we struggle with feeling, worthy with ourselves or that our activities are valuable. And that's where we may need to set some boundaries with that own inner critic. And it can help to connect with a community that supports this, that has a mutual understanding of rest and the value of flourishing in our life and not just doing the to-dos. And some final thoughts is that flourishing is deeply individual. There's no checklist, there's no gold star. Yes, you're doing it. And you're in this, you've got it now. It really is just a process. And so notice what's happening for you. How are you feeling? Are you feeling aligned? Are you feeling that sense of fulfillment? Are you feeling like, even if it's not there yet, are you feeling feeling like you're moving towards something that feels good to you. Like I said, it's not about achieving more. It's really, are you feeling alive and connected to your life? So there isn't that end goal when I say achieving more. It's more about right now, does this feel good to me? And does it align for me? So this Mental Health Awareness Month, what we're trying to bring light to is mental health is more than just crisis, and our life is more than just survival. We can take care of our mental health and think holistically and be well in more ways than one. So if you've been functioning for a long time and just in that space, you may want to consider some of the things we've talked about today and consider how you can flourish more in your life. And so thank you for joining us. We'll see you again in a couple weeks. Take care.
Bye-bye.